Welcome to Bible study. We're in the book of 1 Peter. Chapter 3, verse 13 is talking about suffering for right and wrong. Peter knew a lot about suffering. In fact, all of the apostles knew a lot about suffering. So whenever these guys talk about suffering, I listen up. Chapter 3, verse 17. For it is better, if it is the will of God, to suffer for doing good than to suffer for doing evil. I'm going to skip over to chapter 4. This especially sounded a lot like me before Jesus saved me. Therefore, since Christ suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same mind. For he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lusts of men, but for the will of God. Here's the part that sounds like me. For we have spent enough of our past lifetime when we walked in lewdness, lusts, drunkenness, revelries, drinking parties, and abominable idolatries. Verse 4, in regard to these, they think it's strange that you don't run with them, speaking evil of you. Verse 4 to me is like the people that you used to party with all the time, now they're talking behind your back because you don't run with them anymore. Then it says, they will give an account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. Every one of these people that are stuck on this past version of you, those people are going to have to answer to Jesus. Look, whether you believe it or not, there will be no theology on that day. There's not going to be any question. Everyone is going to have to give an account to Jesus. And this is why Jesus says, love your enemies. The goal is to get them all to love Christ. So those people that are talking smack about you behind your back, the goal is to get them in the same place that you are, to pull them out of a place of complete destruction and fear and anger. This is why we pray for them, and this is why we love them back. Verse 7, but the end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be serious and watchful in your prayers, and above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sins. Scripture says that judgment comes after death. If you die today, you're coming face to face with judgment. That's why I don't like this whole game that people play with, oh, I go to church. That doesn't make you a Christian. That doesn't mean you've surrendered to Christ. Oh, I grew up in the church. There's a saying in AA, if you don't remember your last drink, you haven't had it yet. I remember the last drink I had. I remember surrendering myself to sobriety, just in the same way that I now know the moment that Jesus changed my life. And I grew up in the church. I called myself a Christian, living in lewdness and licentiousness and sin, and calling myself a Christian because I grew up in the church, but having no conviction in my sin at all. If you're able to live however you want and you don't hear God calling you back, were you ever his at all? Peter continues talking about personal testimony in verse 11. If anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it as with the ability which God supplied. My Bible breaks this down. Nothing is more effective in drawing someone to Jesus Christ than sharing a personal testimony. Every personal testimony is unique. It's difficult to refute because an individual is sharing truth that has come to her firsthand through her own personal experience with God. This is why I talk about this, because I didn't hear it. This is why I talk about my story. This is why I share. Peter is telling us right here in verse 11 that if anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracle of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it as with the ability that God supplies. If God supplied me a platform, it is my job as a Christian to share my testimony and to share his word. I'm not good at this, but I'm going to do it because I feel this conviction to tell everyone that will listen about Jesus Christ. Back to suffering. Verse 12. Beloved, do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, but rejoice to the extent that you partake of Christ's sufferings. James talks about this too, to count your trials and tribulations as joy. In the very midst of the fire, when it's the absolute hardest to do so, I surrender my fear to God and I say, you know what you're doing. And I trust you, Jesus. I trust you. And in doing so, I'm able to feel the peace that surpasses all understanding. I don't understand why I'm going through what I'm going through, but when I come out on the other side, all the puzzle pieces will fall together and I'll be able to see the big picture because it's strengthened me and it's made me who I am. Faith refined like gold in the fire. Verse 16, yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in this matter. I get to glorify God. Say, I don't know what's going to happen next. I've got no idea. I'm not even driving this car. I said, Jesus, take the wheel. And he did. And then he hit the gas pedal. And then we have not stopped for a bathroom break or snacks or nothing. Okay. I'm okay with where God is taking me because I've surrendered. I'm passenger seat with a blindfold on. Like, yes, sir, let's go, Lord. Where are we headed now? And that's a type of trust I've never had before in my life. And it feels good. There's no fear. I should be terrified with the things that I've been going through, the things that I've been watching my family go through. I feel deeply about them and I also feel peace. I feel God with me. I can't explain that. I'm okay. I can't explain that. I can't explain this feeling other than from the first moment that you were ever in love, your first love, that strong, intense, free feeling of love. You know what love felt like the first time you felt it, but you couldn't explain it to anyone else. It was just love. It's the same way with God. Once I truly felt Jesus in my heart, I could never go back to the feeling before. Nothing is ever going to match this love in my heart. That's how I know if I'm really talking to someone who is a follower of Christ and who's not. Because once you've been in love, you recognize it. And that's what giving my life to God felt like and feels like every day. I didn't know that before because I said I was a Christian and I was playing around attending church bored. Christianity was a chore for me. Church was a chore for me. Worship was like, okay, why are some people crying? Like, it's just a song. Now we get back in the car and I'd get home and I couldn't wait to listen to secular music again. I was able to sin and feel no guilt. Like the lifestyle I was living, I didn't feel bad about the lifestyle I was living. I didn't feel convicted to change. I didn't feel a desire to worship. I didn't want to pray. And if I did pray, it was just help me out of this situation, not worship, not surrender, not relationship. And I had said a salvation prayer when I was younger, and that didn't save me. Saying that little prayer didn't save me because I didn't truly accept it in my heart. So I went through the motions of being a Christian. There was nothing there but true love. Oh man, once you feel that, there really is no going back. Now I know when it's missing. Now I know if I'm worshiping or praying and I feel rushed. I feel like it's a chore. I check myself and I talk to God and I say, God, let my worship be pure. God, come sit with me. Hold my hand. Walk me through this. I don't want to feel distant from you. Sit with me when I'm having a hard day. That's how Peter and all of the other apostles got through their suffering. It's the peace that you get from Jesus. It's indescribable. And if you've never felt it, sit down and talk to God. He's listening. You don't need a priest or a pastor to walk you through it. But if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you won't understand why everyone who does is such a fanatic. When I got my first boyfriend, I wanted to tell everybody about it because I was in love for the first time. That's how my relationship is with Jesus now. It's enough for me to quit my career and shift all of my social media over to spread the gospel as I read it. I don't even know what I'm doing. I just have to share this with you. I have to tell you about this because if you don't understand this love, if you've never felt this before, you deserve to. The end of chapter 4, verse 19. Therefore, let those who suffer according to the will of God commit their souls to Him in doing good, as to a faithful Creator. Peter goes on in chapter 5 to talk about submitting to God and resisting the devil. And verse 8 is what gets me. Be sober and be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. All of these sufferings of the world, it's spiritual warfare. 2 Corinthians 10, verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. This spiritual warfare that's going on in your mind, that's the enemy. God is not going to give you thoughts of shame and guilt and evil, depression, anxiety. Like, these are not things of Christ. I didn't realize that until I gave my life to Christ, that the things I considered normal were not normal. Those are spiritual warfare. And if the enemy can keep you on his side, he'll do anything. Once I gave my life over to Jesus, man, it is like the devil keeps trying to kick me while I'm down. He's not happy that he lost not just me, but my son. Hell lost too, and we are free. And the enemy has been throwing everything he can. But God has the devil on a leash. And that's saying that God won't give you more than you can handle. No, God will give you more than you can handle. God will break you. God will allow spiritual warfare to break you down, because after everything is broken and torn down, after the old man is gone, after all of this destruction, it gets rebuilt anew. Life gets rebuilt anew. If you want to build something new, you got to tear down the old. God gives you more than you can handle because He's making you stronger. That's what I took from 1 Peter. I'm going to go back real quick to something that Peter said. For it is better if it is the will of God to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. That doesn't say that you're not going to suffer. You're going to suffer. I'm going to suffer. My child is going to suffer. People I love are going to suffer. What that says to me is, which side do you want to suffer for? What side do you want to suffer for? Jesus defeated the grave. The devil has already lost. I'm not joining the losing team. That's like watching the Super Bowl knowing which team has already conceded. Why would you want to root for them? So I'm on Team Jesus. If it takes suffering, I trust in God. I know that whatever happens in this little blip of a life that we get, I know where I get to spend eternity. Did you like it? So that's what I got out of First Peter. I hope you got something out of it too.